You can already see the foundation of some of these gooseberries coming in. And over here we have some of our pink and our black currants. There's nothing quite like coming out in the morning and having fresh berries on your way to work. And we're adding another one of our favorite berries to this mix. There are 3 beds along this side of our house that we've used for the last couple of years. Now initially they were designed for blueberries, but we haven't had as much success with blueberries as we would like. So this year we're revamping these beds and we're going to turn them into what we hope will be a wonderful strawberry crop. So today I'm going to walk you through how we're planting our strawberries, what our soil's like over here, and hopefully provide you with just about all the information you need in order to plant and have really successful strawberries. Now while we had our blueberries in here, we also did come over last season and the season before and bring a few strawberry plants and put them in here. But we want to be a little bit more precise and a little bit more specific about how we plant them this year. And we got to get rid of a few of these weeds, these dandelion and other weeds in here. And so we're going to show you what that process is going to look like as we prepare this bed. The fact that these are already growing is also an indicator that you can get these planted and in the ground if you're planting them for the first time as soon as the frosts are over and that nighttime temperature is consistently above about 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, first I should give you a good glimpse of what the soil's like in this bed right now. Because we started with the idea of planting blueberries in here, you can actually see some of the smaller roots from the blueberry bush that we took out of here. You can see that the soil makeup in here is peat moss and sand. That's the primary mix that we had early on. We did that because we needed a more acidic soil for our blueberries. Now the entire area here isn't that exact same makeup though. We have some of our native soil around the exterior, so we've got more of a clayey mix here. So when that's all combined together, that gives us actually a pretty nice, well-draining soil that's still slightly acidic. And that acidic pH has clearly not been a problem for these strawberries. They like that 6 to 6.5 range. And so we've got a nice pH range. And with the addition of some of the compost that we're going to put in here in order to bring up this level just a little bit, and in addition to some of what we have with our native soil, I think we're going to be just fine with that 6.5 pH range. Now on top of that, we do have some pine bark. And we use this pine bark again with the blueberries as our mulch because it's slightly acidic. But this has been in here now for about 2 years. It's starting to break down a little bit and that's fine. We'll use that for sure for the mulch to cover up, to keep the moisture in for our strawberry plants once we get them in the ground. Now before I come over here and start planting anything, in addition to prepping the soil, I need to make sure that the few weeds that we have still in here are pulled out. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper and just get these weeds out of here, because it's one thing that they tell you, I think that everyone can agree on, and that's that weeds are the bane of strawberries' existence. If you want to lose your strawberries, you let the weeds come in. So we got to come in here and pull out all the weeds. Fortunately, this soil is nice and loose and easy to get through, so I'm going to take the weeds out of here, and then we're going to start prepping the soil and get these strawberries planted. What I've added to the soil here is just some organic compost, the same compost that we're using. Add again some of that nice organic material to the soil. So it's going to be still well draining because we have that peat moss, we have the sand in here. This is going to be a soil with the right pH. It's going to be a soil that these strawberries absolutely love to be in. And that's pretty important as you're planting your strawberries. Just give them a little bit of what they want and they'll be just fine. We didn't even cover these strawberries up this year. Here in Zone 5, we had plenty of snow. We didn't cover them up with straw, which if you're in some of the colder zones, you really should over winter. And you can see again, they came back just fine. But now we have a nice loose soil with the right pH. So now we have to look at what planting these looks like. And now we're talking spacing and we're talking variety. I think it's important to understand the 3 main types of strawberries that are typically sold today. We have our June-bearing, our ever-bearing, and our day-neutral strawberries. Now today we're going to be planting some ever-bearing strawberries. These are the Fort Laramie strawberries, which are really nice and grow really well here in Zone 5. And we also have some June-bearing strawberries as well. Now the difference between these 3 different types of strawberries, in my opinion, is pretty profound. While they all start flowering around the same time, the June-bearing has the shortest season The everbearing has a gap in between when they start to bear fruit and then they start to bear fruit a second time. The day neutral has the longest of all the growing seasons, and for many of you, if you want to really expand and have that great production, that might be the direction you want to go in. But just like a lot of other things with seeds, etc., this year there are some shortages that we found in our strawberry varieties. And so while we went looking for some day neutral strawberries, the place that we went to hadn't even gotten them in this year, and they told us they likely wouldn't get them in this year because of so much ordering online. So today we're going to be planting some of these Fort Laramie everbearing strawberries. But realistically, the choice as to which kind of berry is best for you comes down to taste and really what you want to use them for. So there are some varieties that are far better to use for your jams or your preserves, whatever it is that you make with them. Some varieties are better right off of the plant. Some are better if you're trying to grow in containers. So again, it's all about what you want and what you need. And the nice thing is, most of the time, if you're going to buy them from the store, they'll have a description of the taste. They'll definitely tell you the variety in terms of whether they're everbearing or day neutral, etc. And they should tell you also the size and common uses. And if not, it's a pretty easy Google search to find out. Now, upon planting, you may get a little bit of fruit that first season, but the fruit production really kicks in that second year, and typically you'll get fruit from the main plant for 2 to 3 years. But after a time, and this has been in here for 3 years now, you can see the main plant will die back. And that's why it's important to note that if you are somebody who wants to keep a good garden going, a good fruiting happening, without spending a ton of money, once these plants start to develop, they will begin sending out runners, or as they're sometimes referred to as daughter plants, that will reach across, and you'll be able to collect them and plant them and continue that growing cycle. So as the main plant starts to fade, as it stops losing the ability to fruit, you'll be able to gather up those runners and continue the process without buying new plants. Now, there's a couple reasons why you might want to buy strawberry plants versus just catching the runners. For one, if you want to try a new variety that you haven't seen before. And two, if you don't have enough time to catch the runners, this isn't that expensive to start out with a new variety. You can see that when we buy them, they come in a dormant stage, and you can actually see the soil that these were started in are really sandy. So it's going to match perfectly with what we have here. We have a little bit of green at the top. I'm not worried. This is definitely normal and how it should look as we're getting started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a nice hole for this so that the roots can be as straight down as much as possible. I don't want to bend the roots when I'm planting, and I definitely want to give them room to spread out. Now, I have my seeding square here, and it's not because I'm going to use this to plant this. These aren't seeds. This isn't going to be all that helpful in that regard, but this is a square foot. And one of the mistakes that we made in planting previously was putting these too close together. They need room to spread out. Unless you're planning to always cut off all the daughter plants, they're not going to develop as fully if you don't give them room. So the recommendation for this is about 12 to 18 inches of space. Well, my growing area isn't that huge, so I don't have a ton of space, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to move away from the edge just a little bit, and I'm going to put these at about every 12 inches. So I'm going to have 4 in a square foot area. And that may not be the most ideal distance for planting, but it's the space that we have right now, and that's going to let me see exactly where to fit these, and I can do this the whole way down nice and easily. Now, as I'm planting this in the ground, again, I don't want to sit it down in here in such a way so that the roots are facing up or bent. I want to allow them to move straight down as much as possible. And the area where this plant should go is not up above where the plant is. That could cause it to rot out and it won't develop well. I also don't want to allow the roots to be showing. I want it right at the level where the roots end and the plants begin. So I push it down in here, give it as much space as I can, and then I place the soil gently around it. Now I've got the first one in the ground, so I'm going to go through here and I'm going to move over again about a foot. So try to give it as much space, and look again how easy it is for me to move down. And you'll notice that I'm not actually fertilizing the soil right now, in part because we have some nice nutrient dense soil. This soil is in really good shape right now. And the preferred time to come through and fertilize is after the strawberries have fruited for the last time. So if you can, you wait and then give it maybe a 10-10-10 fertilizer or a 5-5-5, whatever you got that's nice and balanced. This should give us plenty of room as the plants start to send out their runners or their daughters. And here we go again. I'm going to list the soil out, and it's this simple. You just give them what they want in terms of that planting, and they will take off. I would expect here within the next 3 or 4 weeks to start to see some really nice growth as these roots take hold and take purchase in this soil that they're going to love so much. And I'm going to repeat something that I said here a little bit ago. Part of the purpose of coming in here and making sure that we give them this much space is so that we get bigger plants and better production. I saw somebody ask online how many strawberry plants they needed for a family of 4, and the recommendation was at least 10 plants. Well, that may be the case, but I can promise you this, for our family, we will be planting far more than 10. And I'm going to continue that process. So we got another foot here. So now my next 2 plants can go right here and right here. Now strawberries do best when they receive at least 6 hours, but they prefer full sun, which means at least 8 hours of sun a day. This bed gets between 8 and 10 hours of sun a day. So this is perfect growing space, a perfect growing space for these strawberries. And if you can give them that nice sunlight, they're going to be so happy. But unlike in years past, we've decided not to plant these strawberries alone. We haven't done any kind of companion planting with them before, but this year we're adding one piece that I think is going to make a big difference in our garden in general, and that is this edible annual borage. Now borage is supposed to have a taste similar to like a mild cucumber taste, and you can eat these leaves, you can eat these flowers, and it's supposed to be really delicious, as you can see right here, in salads, drinks, and more. And we haven't done that so much before, but this is supposed to be a really simple plant to grow, and it's a plant that attracts bees. And that's one of the things we definitely want to bring into our garden is more bees, more pollinators, and it also is supposed to attract some predatory wasps that will come in here and take care of some of the other pests that might be attracted to our garden in general, to these strawberries and to our garden. And so we're going to put this borage in the ground. Now you don't need borage between every single strawberry plant. 1 every 3 to 4 feet is supposed to make a difference. And one of the things that we read about this, and I think this is super cool, this borage is supposed to also improve the taste of strawberries. According to people who do this regularly, it improves the overall taste, and it's not a plant that is going to have a problem as the runners are pushed out from these strawberries. And so what we're going to do is we're going to plant these about a 1/2 inch deep, just like so, and give it a nice covering up. I'm going to put them right here in the middle, even though I don't need them just that often. I'm still going to put them in here because I'm not sure of the germination rate yet. But get these covered up. And so we'll have some really nice companion planting happening here with our strawberries. So now I have to go through and do this to the rest of the bed, and I'm not going to show you that part because that's going to take me a while, but I am going to do one last step here. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to take some of this mulch that's already breaking down, this pine bark, and I'm going to spread this out to help me keep the moisture in for these strawberries as they start to take off. And then we're going to have, in the next couple of months, some massive growth to show you as we start doing our outdoor garden tours. Now there you have it, folks. We got some strawberries in the ground, lots more to come, lots more to plant. And strawberries are one of my all-time favorite fruits, so the more you can do to make them happy, the more you can do to space them correctly, plant them correctly, the better off you're gonna be. We hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. And if you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe. And most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.